Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're here to chat all things Leeds United with myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever, it is Mr. Jason Booker. Jason, how are we doing, mate?
Very well, my friend. Good morning.
Settled into a nice little slot here, haven't we, Thursday morning? It's, nice little carved out, a bit of a niche for ourselves here, I think.
It's a nice little period of the day, I think. I actually quite like chatting Leeds at this time because I spend all day thinking about it anyway. So, by the time I get to evening, I'm so, kind of overwhelmed with all my Leeds thoughts that getting them out at 11 o'clock in the morning is quite nice. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If you watch along live, please do smash a like on the video. Get subscribed to the channel as well so you can catch all mine and Jay's content on Leeds United. Get your comments in. If you're watching again later, please do also smash a like on the video as well. So really interested to get your take on a few things today, Jay, because obviously we spoke after the game last week, but you weren't on the Monday show, and there's a couple of things that kind of came out post-match that I'm kind of just interested to get your take on. But first of all, it's Wolves up on Saturday. Wolves sitting bottom of the table, have lost every league game so far. I will caveat a little bit, and I don't think this has been kind of acknowledged that much, but they've had a few tricky fixtures there. They had Man City, Bournemouth, and Newcastle, plus, a kind of bouillon Everton as well. I mean, they themselves have not had the easiest start, because I was thinking, Wolves, bottom of the league. But when you look at the fixtures, it adds a little bit more context around this, because I think a few Leeds fans are thinking this is, we go there and we win on Saturday.
They've also not looked bad either.
No,
against Newcastle, they were pretty good from what I understand. I watched them against Man City, and they were actually good. They were a little
weird game, that wasn't it? Yeah. A really weird game, because when Man City kind of got a goal or two, it just kind of floodgates open. But yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think just like always, the expectation of the fan base is just completely askew. Some are saying that this is a must-win. I mean, that's mental. What do we think, that Wolves are just not going to win a single game all season? And do you think that whoever Wolves beat are then going to automatically go down? It don't work like that, does it? For me, and I mean, I know we're skipping over a few pages here, but this is still in the realms of just get a point and get out of there. It's almost as beneficial because it is a 6-pointer. Let's just say that they are in and around the bottom three come the end of the season, and so are we. Us taking a point stops them getting another 2 as well. So it's a double-edged, and especially away from home. If this were at home, I'd be saying, look, we need to go in and win this game, especially given the fact that they've lost their opening 4. But this sounds mental, but for every loss that they take, the win is the next game away, right? The win gets a bit closer. How long before they take the first points of the season? At some point, they're going to take them. They're a Premier League side that have been an established Premier League side for a long time. So, it kind of points towards them probably getting something at the weekend, Yeah. So I'd be delighted. I mean, it'd be a massive 3 points away from home. Massive. But I'd be very happy with a point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've been boosted a little bit as well. Manager Victor Pereira is signing a new contract, apparently. So they've clearly got faith in what he's doing, and he did a fantastic job last season. What do you think the mentality from a Leeds point of view is going into this? I mean, do you kind of maybe loosen the reins up a little bit? I mean, obviously we saw, and we're going to reflect on this because I'm kind of annoyed at kind of how the Fulham game is being viewed, a few days after. I thought it was perfect strategy, really good performance, and a freak bit of luck went against us. Do you think, though, because we are playing bottom of the league and etc., do you think we may see a non-twin for an Aronson, for example, who maybe can do a little bit more creatively, and you just accept maybe defensively you're not got as much? Or do you think it'll be kind of rinse and repeat what we saw last week?
Maybe. I think there's 2 kind of ways of looking at this. I mean, we don't really know where Wolves are going to be. As you've just said there, they've already played 3 really tough games, and winning games in the Premier League is tough. So they actually, for all we know, once they start balancing the games out, they could be 13th come the end of the season. They might be completely comfortable. We don't really know as much as we can kind of expect, because they had a loss of players that they might be down there. It is tricky after 4 games to really kind of, have an identity of where it is. Again, you're saying bring Nonto in to be more creative than Aronson, yet Brendan's created a higher XG than Nonto throughout the season so far. Nonto's played more minutes. Nonto's been particularly good outside of a small cameo against Sheffield Wednesday. I thought he was good in that game. I think that side, I think even the work that he did against Everton were a little bit lackluster. The thing is fans get excited because he looks like he's doing loads, but he doesn't actually do that much. I've said this for nearly 2 years, and there's a reason that he spent the last 2 seasons behind Dan James first season and then Somerville in the first one. And obviously Manor Solomon. I mean, he weren't getting in front of Solomon. So I don't know. I still think away from home, I think the way that we kind of set up the other days is fair. The argument that I would push back on this situation that's been happening at the minute is if you're watching these games and coming to the conclusion that Daniel Farke's a problem, then you've got a problem. And you can't argue that Daniel Farke's doing a bad job, but then also say that our attackers are crap. Because it's either one or the other, right? Because it's either Daniel Farke's the problem and he's the reason that we're not creating enough, or it's the attackers have not got the individual ability to deal with the league that they're playing at. And I think we're more leaning towards that. Yeah. Sure, there'll be things that Daniel Farke could do better that will be able to give us moments within games to create more chances. I'm not saying that he's completely inept of responsibility, but when you look at the games and you look at what we're doing, we are keeping established Premier League teams, apart from the Arsenal game. I'm choosing not to talk about that. Completely away from our goal. Ever really looking like conceding? Everton and Newcastle both are good sides, and Everton, we've seen what they've done since we beat them. I think they've won every game, right?
Yeah.
And Fulham at the weekend, they created nothing until Kevin came on. Nothing. So I can see the foundations for staying in games and keeping the score at something that we can still then build on and win games with him. It's going to be stinky at times and it's not going to look great. We're not going to be swashbuckling Bielsa ball. But we saw what came of that in the long run as well, as much as I loved it. And, it was the best. It wasn't sustainable with the players that we had, and trying to do too much with the players that we've got now isn't going to be sustainable either. We're just going to get honked. So, yes. Yeah, but I mean, especially because we've not got enough going forward. Teams know that. They look at our attack and think, we don't even really need to worry about this too much.
Sorry.
Before I let you in, I saw content creators mentioning this the other day, and I do think they've got a valid point with this, is that I do think Farke maybe could look at setting the wings up in a slightly different way to help our attackers get more chances that are going to suit them. So if you start in Metcher and Calvert-Lewin, it actually makes more sense to start wingers that will run to the byline and cross the ball in. Now, Okafor likes to play on the left and cut in, and that is where his skill set is. But I'd be tempted to start him on the right and start Jack Harrison on the left and be looking to get the ball to the touchline and whip balls in towards the 6-yard box. It doesn't have to be like that all the time. I mean, maybe you could invert them. Jack Harrison spent the last 2 seasons playing on the right side of midfield. So maybe you could play 15 minutes like that and let Okafor do his natural stuff coming in. And then for 15 minutes, you switch them over and you're right, okay, this change has happened. Now the ball's going to be in and around the 6-yard box a little bit more for Calvert-Lewin to get his head on. There is things within the structure that Farke could probably do to maybe create 1 or 2 chances more.
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting point. Oh, I think we've got a bit of an echo coming through on there. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, actually, because against Everton, where we probably had our best attacking performance, you had Piru in there, who's a different type of striker who could drop deep and pick out those wingers, and that kind of, we saw it Nonto time and time again, picking it up and kind of turning backwards, waiting for a fullback to overlap. So maybe it's time to mix it up. And Farke's challenge this season and going forward from what we've seen now is going to be, how does he unlock a little bit more up front? It's fascinating with the discourse around it as well. And I said this on Monday, and we all sat as Leeds fans, I think the entire fan base, a reasonable kind of, Leeds United fan would have sat there this summer and said, it is going to be a hard season. We are not expecting to finish it above 15th or 16th. The games are going to be grind. It's going to be tough. It's going to be defensive. There's not going to be a lot of goals. And then when that plays out, people don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're absolutely spot on. It was never going to be Bielsa swashbuckling, finishing 9th, scoring a bag full of goals. This is how it's got to be, as far as I can see. From if you're going to learn your lesson of what's happened the last couple of years in the Premier League with the promoted teams, this is exactly how it's got to be. And I don't understand why we're flip flopping 4 games into it. When for me, I saw Joe make a great point. Barring Arsenal, no opposition player has scored a goal past us.
Exactly.
I mean,
they've looked as likely to score as we have. So do you reckon that their fans are like, we've got no creativity with like Ashley Barnes and Jack Grealish and like Kevin, like they're not, are they? They're not losing their mind, like Muniz and whoever else, bringing Traore on, Emile Smith Rowe, like all these players that came on against us at the weekend, like they're not losing their minds over the creativity. We're playing a certain style that stifles the opposition because the manager sees it, and if as a logical football fan, you're looking at the games that we've played, you should be seeing it as well and saying, we are doing a really good job as a tactical system and as a tactical setup to get the best out of what we've got. I really do believe that. I'm actually surprised with how solid we've looked. I thought we would be getting carved open a lot more. And I know against Arsenal we did. But the other games, we really should be second best in them as well. And we've not been second best. I would say against Everton and Newcastle, if either team deserved to win, it was us. They were both tight games, but I'd say we deserved to win both of them. If you had to pick a winner, if it's like boxing and it had to be a 10-9 round, right? We just edged both of them. And against Fulham, I'd say for 70 minutes, we were by far the better side overall.
Yeah.
They just edged it in the last 20 when it really counted. If you were going to probably give a winner either way, you maybe say for the way that Fulham finished the game, fine, right? But even then, you're stretching. Yeah. So I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, they've not scored a goal because Goodwinson scored it. At the end of the day, if we'd have got to the end of the game with 5 points, end of Fulham game with 5 points, we'd have been looking at them 4 games and saying that's almost as good as we could have ever hoped for, given the first 4 fixtures of the season, given that 2 of them were away and 2 of them were against Champions League teams.
Yeah.
So for me I think 4 points. I think if you'd have looked at them first 4 games, Brownie, you'd have been dead honest to say, you know what, we'll be lucky to get 4 points.
100%. I wouldn't have thought we'd beat Everton. Definitely not before. 100%. So yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And it's fascinating to see how through the prism of a loss, how that performance then people start picking it apart and this was wrong and starting Aronson. I mean, the whole Aronson debate to me is kind of, but I just find it absolutely baffling. It's like this guy contributed nothing last year when he was a major part of how we played, and last week against Fulham, I thought he was so good defensively, and he's one of those players. Things happen around him, and yes, I know physically, he's not gonna be able to kind of stand up people. But look, I mean, Jesus, there's small players who've been successful in world football. Your Modric, all these top players, Silva, it happens. He's probably got to find a way to maybe use what's perceived as his weakness as a strength. That's what, for me, Aronson needs to develop is, right, okay, I'm small, I'm slight. How can I use that in a bit more of an effective way to maybe increase that output? But in terms of the work that he does, and I thought he was very good, and it's interesting, if Nonto came on last week, he lets Kevin go. That leads to the court, and it's that kind of aspect of it that you got to look at the full picture for it. And I find it a bit disillusioning when fans are talking him down so much and slagging him off. I think it's totally unfair, and he's got a part to play. And let's back our players. Let's support them as supporters at the end of the day. Come on.
It's just personal. I mean, I've a bit disappointed in myself because I found myself back on Twitter a little bit this week. Arguing about Brendan Aronson because I have a problem when agenda and kind of the personal aspect side of things gets in the way of reality, logic, and supporting the team. Yeah. Like, I'm all for calling out a player that I like for his technical deficiencies. I'm not even saying I like Brendan Aronson as a player. I've never even said that. Yeah. I just understand as a squad of players that we've got, he plays a role. And at the weekend, he played a significant role in us getting a point away at Fulham for the time that he was on the pitch. He actually played really well, but people can't handle it.
No.
All they do is just every time he loses the ball, go, "Oh, see, he lose ball again," and it's like. But if Willing Onto had had exactly the same performance, they'd have been saying, "Oh, he tracked back. He did really well defensively."
Yeah.
It's just an agenda that they can't let go of. I've seen the same people that have been calling for Brendan Aronson to be released from the club after the weekend, calling for Harry Gray to be starting against Wolves. I've seen it, and it's like you just don't. They say that they support the club and they say that they care about the club, but they don't. They all they do is just look at this superficial kind of. It's like a FIFA football manager, like I don't even know, delusion. It's just a delusion, and they struggle to deal with the concept that there's more to being able to beat a player or whip a ball into the box about football. There's more to it than that makes up the whole system. Okafor was far more bright against Fulham. He had moments where he was showing his good bits of skill, possession, creativity. He had moments, Tete gets in front of him to block a really, really good chance. That is facilitated by the fact that Brendan's on the other side doing more of a defensive task. He's set up in a position that is allowing the team to do that. Jayden was able to get a little bit more involved in the attacks because of Brendan. The whole left side was stifled from Fulham because of Brendan. Like, that doesn't happen by itself. Is he great on the ball? No. Is he great creativity-wise? No, he's not. But I'd argue that he had our best chance of the game. Cut across the front post, probably went a little bit too far, but managed to get back on target. You go and have a look at the stats, and the stats will tell you, as I said earlier, that he's created more chances than Willie Gnonto this season, and he's barely played. Gnonto's played more games, more minutes. And at the weekend, I mean, people that were arguing with me that he was crap in the duels then came back to me and said, actually, I've just looked at the stats and he won the most duels at the weekend. So you can't. And then they start saying, yeah, but then he loses the ball straight after it. And it's like, it's hopeless for you. You are gone. You are lost. And these same people are the same people. Sorry, I'm ranting. But these are the same people that are calling for Daniel Farke's head while not watching the games properly, anyway. Yeah. They're calling for Ramazani to be playing, even though he's played 3 good games in this whole time at Leeds United. He even had one numpty say to me yesterday that Ramazani scored more goals than Solomon against top 6 opposition last season. So that means that that Ramazani was better. Now, factually, that is true because Ramazani scored 2 goals off the bench against Bristol City towards his second to last game of last season. And
there's no context to it, though. There's no
context to the Solomon 11 goals that he scored and then 15 assists or whatever he ended up. Like, no context to that. And the fact that, from a creativity point of view, it's probably harder against the teams down at the bottom that are scrapping, that are tighter defensively, playing with low blocks, etc. And, he's done it over the whole season. Like, we saw Ramadan
last kick of the game.
Yeah. Literally the best player on the pitch from January onwards. And then the same person said to me, he was nowhere near the best player in the Championship from January onwards. I was like, sorry, it's just agenda. Again, you just don't like him. It's as simple as that.
It is so bizarre. Honestly, do you know what I would say? And I kind of touched on this on Monday as well, is I would say around Farke, I'll be honest with you, I'm more of a Farke fan now in what he's doing than I was at the start or at the end of the playoff defeat. Then I was like, if he goes, fine. But what he achieved last season, how he conducts himself, how he's set up so far, I would say I'm more of a staunch Farke supporter now than I was 2 years ago.
I agree completely, mate. I agree completely. And I think these 4 games have further enhanced that. Like, for me, if you understand anything about football, you're not watching these 4 games and saying Farke's doing a bad job here.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're just not. It makes no sense.
Agree. Yeah, no, totally agree. And in my list of topics to discuss, I was going to mention about Gray because, I've seen it. I've seen the whole kind of thing growing, and because obviously he's got a hat trick for the under-21s midweek, fantastic. And look, we all love Harry Gray. We love the Gray dynasty. We hope he will be an amazing player. God knows Leeds need to start producing some talents that make it to the first team. I'm on my knees praying that he signs that professional contract so nobody can snatch him away. I want him to be what we all hope. Is he ready at 16 to come in to the Premier League to start games. I mean, it's a madness that we're even thinking about. We can't get the, we've also had examples in recent history. Gellert, how many players that have smashed it into reserve football, and then completely not being up to the level. Do we really want to risk that with Gray? I mean, it's madness. It's madness.
For every Wayne Rooney or James Milner, there is, I would say, and I'm guessing, but it's probably more than this. I reckon there's 10,000 lads that will be nowhere near it. Yeah. Nowhere near it. You're talking maybe 18, 19, 20 before most kids have maybe developed enough to be able to play even just minutes at Premier League level. Yeah. It is so far away from what you're even considering. So for anybody calling for Harry Gray, and they won't have even seen him play. That's the mental thing. They won't have seen him. Under 21s football is a mile. We were talking about this on the group yesterday, weren't we? The days of reserve football where, Harry would have been at 16 playing up against a centre-back at Arsenal coming back from injury. Them days are gone. So you have no kind of yardstick as to what you're going to have to deal with on a Saturday at first team level. Now they just play against other kids up until making their way into men's football, usually on loan, and then they might come back and play at the parent club. He's miles off it. He's miles and miles and miles off it. He's a young boy running around at the minute that, to me and you, he'd look unbelievable. If we were to play side by side against him, he'd take the piss. Yeah. But at Premier League level, he'd just get eaten alive. And then what does that do for his confidence? What does that do for his development? Archie was probably a one-off. I think Archie, I know people are saying Harry's better than Archie, but the positions make a difference too. Archie coming in and playing right back is very different to Harry Gray leading the line for Leeds United. So is he going to be James Milner? That's the level that you're having to talk about him being as good as it from a Leeds product. When James came in, it was 16, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And it's a different beast these days. Do you know what? I think the reserve football thing is bang on. So I was watching Stick to Football this morning with Des Walker. And basically he said, because obviously it was 80s, kind of 90s was his time, and they had reserve football. And he basically, because they said to him, God, you played 4 years on the trot without getting injured or anything. And he said basically what he used to do is he used to ask Brian Clough, he said, right, I'll play my game on the Saturday. I'll play in the reserve fixture on Wednesday and then play again at the weekend. And he said, because you learn more in training than you do, you learn more in a match than you do in training. And fitness and everything, it was bang on. And you make a great point as well. He was saying against, Liverpool in the 80s basically had 2 first 11s. So if you're playing a reserve match against Liverpool on a Wednesday, you're tested to an unbelievable extent. And we're probably missing something out within under 21s and all this. Reserve football is, it sounds to me really that's much more productive.
100%. I used to love going to Valley Parade and watching the reserves down there. Leeds played over there a few times. I used to go and watch. Like any time I used to get to go and watch a reserve game because you used to be able to get signatures from players that were first team players that were obviously coming back. And I agree completely. I don't know if you know this, and maybe some of the viewers won't know this either. But in Holland, they are well known for obviously producing academy graduates, right? Ajax, PSV, SC20, Utrecht, and then there's Feyenoord, all are well known for producing high-class academy graduates. We've seen so many over the years. But why does Dutch football not do great? They go from Dutch football, don't they, and go and play in Germany or go and play in the Premier League or wherever. But in the second division of Holland, they have them 5 teams that I've just mentioned, reserve teams. So they have Ajax Jong, I think it's called, and PSV Jong. And so them players that are 18, 19, they're playing against the second division in Holland men's team. So by the time that they then are getting ready for first team football, they've already been playing men's football for 2-3 years. They come through at PSV at 21 and the beasts. And this is why they've got such an elevated step up. They do it in Spain as well. I think it's a little bit further down the divisions. So Real Madrid have definitely got Castilla that play in I think it's the 3rd or 4th division of Spain. But again, it's the same concept. That's not luck.
Well, that's why we've seen a couple of teams. Brentford did it for a while. I don't know if they've redone it. Where they've got like a B team where you go and you play a proper opposition. You get a lot of fixtures set up against tough, European and get them up to that standard and get them, some real tough competition. I mean, it's an interesting one, kind of linking it back to Gray, because then you're thinking, well, how do you really make sure that he doesn't become a comfortable under 21s player and then suddenly that step up is just too much? It's like, do you envisage he will actually get introduced maybe when he gets to 17, 18? We'll see more minutes in the first team from him than, certainly what Joffrey and Greenwood and all these guys got. Do you think they will bring him in and he will be, an early bloomer? But obviously at 16, it seems a bit too much too soon at the moment.
I think it depends on how he develops. And I think it also depends on what league we're in. Because if we're in the Premier League, I would imagine that it'll be slower. If it's in the Championship, if we were to go down and he's 17 next year,
play him.
Probably see him getting some minutes. Yeah. It's a different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I've seen him play. I've seen him in the flesh. He's quick. Like he's really smart. His movement's really, really good. He's a good finisher. He's a predator of a finisher. But you think about putting him up against men, he wouldn't be. I mean, we saw him in pre-season, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's not like we haven't seen him. He's not done anything, and he didn't have too long, but he hasn't done anything. To think that we can hang his hat on him against, this weekend Premier League defenders, even in the shape of Wolves, he'll get absolutely mullered.
If his name wasn't Gray, his last name, would we be even hearing a 10 to this? And that's what does it, isn't it? That's the same with Archie. Was it all Gray? It's got to mean automatically. It's if I were one of reserve players, I'd be changing my last name to like Batty or something, or Bremner. Do you know what I mean? And just you'll be right.
You say that, we've been here before. I make this reference what feels like every season me and you talk now, but we've been there at the days of Ryan Edmondson being called for over Patrick Bamford, and then Ryan Edmondson ended up going and playing League Two football a few weeks later. We've had it before with what was his name now? The lad that he had an all right football league career. I went and played for Fleetwood. I can't remember his name now. He played for Bradford as well.
Oh, the right back.
No, that was Tyler Denton. We had it with him as well. Yeah. But what's his name?
Oh God, yeah.
I'll find it in a bit anyway. But yeah, it tends to be strikers. It tends to be attackers that it happens with, because it's exciting and the potential. Like, there's no better feeling, again, bringing it back to the computer world. On Football Manager, you put your 16-year-old kid on the bench that thinks going to make it, and you put him on off the bench and he scores. Like, even you feel it's a computer simulation. So I get it. But it's just not the reality for most, for most kids. They're just going to get lost in the system. There wouldn't be any surprise to me if Harry in a few years' time ends up playing League One or League Two football. It's more likely that he'll do that than he'll replicate Archer. Far more likely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the tough nature of, isn't it, and the cutthroat way it is. Just want to kind of bring it back to Daniel Farke. Now, he made some post-match comments after the Fulham game. I think at the time on our stream, we kind of touched on it, but we didn't really, in the haze of kind of post-match, we didn't really kind of consider it that much. But it's an interesting one. And I dropped this in the group at the start of the week. I'm just not going to read all of it out, but just the particular bit with reference to some of our players. So he says, no criticism or no disrespect to my players, but the players we have, Willie Nonto, Daniel James, Jack Harrison, Brendan Aronson, they were all with us 2.5 years ago when we were relegated from the Premier League. They were all called hopeless and not good enough for the Premier League. Now, he's factually correct. He's factually correct. You can't argue with the facts. But does he have to be careful with this kind of messaging? Because he said very clearly in the press conference, we're all waiting for that press conference post-international break, what's Farke going to say about the lack of signings in the attacking section? And he said, and he did that kind of classic Farke thing where he kind of, he goes on a monologue for a few minutes and he's like, we won't complain, but yes, it would have been nice to get more quality. It's like kind of saying it all, really. Post-match, obviously, you've lost at the death, emotions running high, but does a line need to be drawn under kind of discussing it now? I mean, what's your take on that?
Very similar to yours. I think me and you both kind of had the same feeling towards it. Again, we're both Farke fans, but we'll call him out when he needs calling out. And, when the time comes that he needs to be sacked, we'll call that out as well. I know we will, because that's what we're like. And the facts are, is I don't like this, if I'm honest. You know, the lads in the group who don't support Leeds all defended him, really, and were kind of more on the side of, well, he's right, he's taking pressure off him, all these kind of angles that he kind of... I don't see it like that. I see it as a bit of, he said that he weren't going to complain and mention it, yet he's then complained and mentioned it.
Yeah.
I think it makes him look weak. And I think it also makes the players... I don't think that they'll see it as pressure being taken off. I think they'll more likely see it as he don't back me.
Yeah.
He don't believe in me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't like it. If I'm honest, I didn't like it at all. I just think we've got what we've got. We all know you wanted somebody, Daniel. We don't blame you for that. But you've got what you've got now, and you need to make the most of what you've got. And I think you are trying to do that. But highlighting this is only ever bringing it back to then you want to make an excuse of that rather than just taking responsibility for what you've got. So yeah, that's how I kind of see that, really. You know, like I'm caught in the middle ground with changing. I've always kind of maintained that the very best managers will stick to their philosophy and they'll get there in the end. Pep shown that over years and years and years. Klopp did. Bielsa were the same. I think Slot's pretty much the same. I think they can change within the structure of their main tactic, but that's the way that they're going to set up, because you can't go into training every day and be like, get them to do it perfectly if you were then changing the formation, especially. But I just got on the screen open here, and somebody suggested playing a 4-1-2-1-2 if we struggle with the wingers, and going 2 up top, maybe Pirro in there or Okafor in there. Maybe he has to give something like that a go in a certain environment that we think, you know what, we're probably going to be, you know, maybe it waits until the FA Cup. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like a situation in which we can maybe start adapting something that can be a bit more creative within certain sections of the game. Maybe you don't even have to play it the whole game, you know? So I do think he has to show some more fluidity in certain areas to get more creativity out of what he's got. Yeah. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of frustrating in a way, because I feel like we've almost not had a kind of, I don't know, I mean, playing Fulham, who were in the relegation zone, but it feels like we've almost not had the right game to kind of show what we could do. I mean, you look at Everton, we dominated, we did create chances. We've also created more chances than, apart from Arsenal, every opponent we've played this season. We've had more shots. I mean, you know, I'm going to make a bold prediction. I think this weekend we score at least 2. That's my kind of, that's my crazy, optimistic heart feeling, is we're going to break our deadlock. We're going to score some goals, and it's going to be good. Because I do feel like it's just waiting to explode. I mean, just on Farke's comments, I mean, it's a press conference later today. I think the journalists are going to try and poke him a little bit. I think they're going to throw something out there about the quality of the wingers. What do you want to say about your comments on Saturday? I think he's got to draw a line. I don't get drawn on it. Don't go on for 10 minutes where you end up saying, you know, slagging them off and but saying you're defending them and we don't complain, but then kind of doing it. He's just got to nip that in the bud now and say, we've got what we've got. The lads are ready. We're going to go for it. That's what I would think anyway.
I agree. I agree completely. You know, this, I was thinking about this yesterday. I saw a highlight package of Gio, and it got me all sad. And it's
the Rafinha ones that kill me.
Rafinha ones kill me as well. But this is the difference between being promoted in the first year and the second year. Because if we'd have gone up in the first year, we'd have still had the creative sparks that we had. We'd have still had Somerville for a year. We'd have still had Rutter for a year, and they would have made the difference in front of this solid defense that we've got. You know, we could well be sat on 9 points after 4 games with 4 really tough fixtures if we'd have just had a little bit more in that final third. So I do sympathise with him, but at the same time, like I say, I think there comes a point when the window shuts, you just shut up now and you've got to get on with it. Yeah. You know, we all know, Daniel, we know it wasn't your fault. We do know that, and we understand whether it's 49ers being tight or PSR issues from Radradani and all that. We know that it's not your fault. Yeah. But you now have to work with what you've got. And are you making the most of what you've got? I think you are from a defensive and a midfield point of view. But then between that area of the pitch, you have to do something that gets a little bit more on the board. You have to.
Yeah, I agree. It makes me think as well, going back to last week, and there's those sliding doors moments in football, and I feel like sometimes, particularly managers as well, little things go against them, and it builds this bigger picture. And that's one worry I have for Farke is, and you met your own luck in life, but sometimes when it starts to turn and go against you, I mean that goal last week, you think, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous. Yeah. It should be sat 5 points and tracking at the 38 points for the season. And I just hope that it doesn't come down to silly moments like that. And sliding doors moments in football, obviously we've got a million of them. But it's those little things that can just kill you, isn't it? Those little daft moments. And I hope for his sake that he's able to get through it and prove himself. Because like I say, I like what he's done. I like how he set us up. You're absolutely bang on. He's got to find, more of a solution for that final third. But how it's looking so far, bar the Arsenal game, I'm happy with it. Really happy with it.
Football is like that. It is a bit brutal, and there is sliding doors moments. But at the same time, he had one of his own in the opening game of the season. Yeah. The handball. I agree with it was handball, but there was an air of fortune around it. Some referees wouldn't have given it, and then we'd have been sat there with 1 point, or maybe Everton go on and nick it late. So I hear you, and I do think he's on an extremely short leash. Like, I think again this weekend feels a little bit like it's a must win for him. I don't think it is. I think it's again a must not lose for him is more important, but I think a loss at the weekend will be really critical for Farke. I don't think it will be for Leeds. I think we can still stay up regardless, but I think it's a really big weekend for him. He's always going to be on a short leash this season because of people's preconceived ideas of him. Because he's Daniel Farke, because he's not Marcelo Bielsa, for all these different reasons that fans don't want to admit. They just go, I don't like his football. And then you're like, well, we got 100 points last season. What are you talking about? Like, I still find it mental that some try and throw last season at him. I honestly, we lost 4 games, 1-0.
Well, do you know what is funny as well? Because I know some people complain about it's a bit slow at times. I would encourage anyone to go watch Marsh Ball and Allardyce Ball, where you treat the ball like a hot potato and you watch your team have 30% possession. I don't want that. I like us, like we did at Craven Cottage last week, passing it around, feeling our way into the game, building the confidence. I was watching a stream, someone saying, get it forward more, do this. You know exactly what will happen. We will give the ball away every 10 seconds.
And then they'll just come back at us.
Yeah.
There were times during the Fulham game in which we actually pinned them in their own half and we kept the ball. The problem is that we didn't have that creative number 10 to unlock the door. But, excuse me, I would actually recommend that you go back and watch last season because I don't think when we're in possession, it's that different. I just think the level of opposition defence is higher and we don't have a 10 in that designated spot now. And because last season we had so much of the ball and we were so good in control, we had countless opportunities to keep on trying to make that happen through the fullbacks. Yeah, we don't have that this season now. We have maybe for every chance that we get this season in the Premier League to actually break into the box to create a goal scoring chance, we had 10 in the Championship, and so many of them broke down. I mean, we weren't particularly creative last season. We weren't. No. We were dominating and we really controlled possession, but we weren't massively creative, especially centrally in the areas of the pitch. And we know why that is, because Brendan's not that kind of player and Perrault's not really that kind of player. I mean, the other day they commented on Jayden Bogle having 6 goals last season. Well, Junior Firpo I think had 8. Like the goals and assists came from the fullbacks, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
How often did you see that cross? The cross across the 6-yard box, and then the other side will tap it in. Solomon, James, or Bogle and Firpo. It was a carbon copy every attack, and they couldn't stop it because they were just too good.
Well, that's why Goodmanson looks so great as well. It looks like that upgrade on Firpo, doing that same when given the opportunity. Obviously, got less opportunity in the Premier League, but looks like he can deliver that as well. I've been really impressed with him.
I do think it's interesting to see what happens with Jacobiol this weekend.
Yeah.
I know it's one that keeps on talking about, and I think he'll end up going with the same again if I had to think what he would go with. But there has to become a point where he comes in and we see maybe if we just get I'm more talking from the attacking point of view, because if he can slot in as defensively good as what we've been throughout the first 4 games, could we then maybe get a little bit more out of the threat that we are in the opposition box? We have to start making more from set pieces. We have to.
It's a big frustration, isn't it? I mean, I'm really getting frustrated that we're just not threatening at all. And some of the deliveries, I mean, Christ almighty, I mean, get it, at least get it in a region. You know what I mean? You know, it's over here, it's under here. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare at the minute.
I mean, that part of it is the easiest bit. Like you could sub me on and I'd float a ball into the dangerous area. You could, but I reckon with my limited amateur ability as a decent passer of the ball, I could put the ball into a dangerous area 5 times out of 10, 50% of the time, right? And a professional football, I mean, Anton Stack, the one that he pinged right against a one-man wall the other day,
I would just, I just wanted to touch actually before we wrap up. Tanaka has had another week in training. That midfield choice, that selection he's going to go with on Saturday, that's going to be really interesting because for me, Longstaff's been superb these last couple of games. Can't drop him. Ampadu, you can't drop him. He makes such a massive difference. The one I'm actually looking at, Stack and Tanaka, that interesting battle. You know, I mean, Tanaka, I love Tanaka. You know, I really do. And I think with Stack, I was frustrated with his on-the-ball contribution last week. His decision-making's been a little bit off, but you can see there's a player there. And I think, you know, he's probably playing 60% of what he can, you know, show us. But that's going to be interesting to see what he goes with there, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it will. I mean, I can see things for both. I think Stack looked amazing against Everton, but has looked patchy since. I think the role that he's been asked to play in is slightly different with Tanaka in the team than it is with Longstaff in the team. I think Stack is expected to do different things that he's maybe not as comfortable with. The problem comes is the physical presence of Stack, Ampadu and Longstaff gives us a lot of physical control within the midfield area of the pitch. Against Fulham, I fully expected that they would cause us issues in that area, and they didn't. We dominated them physically, you know, controlled the areas of the pitch. Sander Berge couldn't dictate the game in the way that it usually does because of the work of all of them. We were hunting them in packs. The midfield 3 went together, and if one of them didn't get it, the other one did. You know what I mean? And that's what you then forsake if you go away from that. The argument then could be is could you potentially drop both wingers and go with a 4-1-3-2 of some sort, and maybe pack that midfield out and expect a bit more from Bogle and Goodmanson. The difficulty that comes with that is then you need to make sure that the 2 outside midfielders. So if you go 4-1-4, 4-1-2-1-2, real narrow diamond in the middle. So it's a midfield diamond in the middle. The 2 that are on the outside, so it'd probably be Stack and Longstaff, have to then drop into them fullback areas. Because otherwise we're just going to get overrun and we'll get absolutely battered. So they could. I don't think he'll do that. I'm talking, you know, totally out of turn, really. Maybe you could ask Longstaff to do an inverted right mid role of some sort, and you play Okafor on the left, and maybe you can kind of get all of them in a certain way that creates that control in the midfield, but gives us a bit more in creativity. You know, you know, I'm not saying Longstaff would then be a right midfielder, but he'd cover that right side of the pitch. You think back to when England used to play with the diamond, and it wasn't great, but Gerrard used to do a really good roll down the right hand side of that midfield. Beckham used to do a really good roll down that right side of the midfield as well, playing as a centre midfielder, covering that area of the pitch. Maybe we could do something like that, but again, I don't think he'll do that. I think he will probably go with the exact same team that played the other day. If I had to bet on it, my gut instinct would say he'd have seen enough from that to think with another week of training, a bit more fluidity between the side, that he'll go with the same side.
Yeah, I think so. Just to push you then before we go, prediction. You've heard mine. I think we're going to score minimum 2 goals. I think if we do that, we win the game, I'd hope.
Yeah, we would.
So I think we win, and I think we see the goals that we're craving. It's a mad optimistic prediction, and I'm aware, and I could be sat absolutely miserable on our match reaction video, but I don't know. I've just got a feeling it's going to click a little bit on Saturday.
I just can't see them losing 5 straight games.
I know that's
where I'm at, and I don't know if that's
last week. I was like,
yeah,
you just thought they're not gonna stay there, are they? They've got out of jail with a goal, but I know what you mean. That's the bugger of it, really.
There is a large part of me that says that we can win the game, but I'm just so realistic with how this season's going to look and how competitive the bottom 3 is going to be. At some point, they're going to get a win on the board. I don't know. My head tells me 1-1, so I'm going to say 1-1 because I think we'll score. I think we'll break the kind of goal scoring problem.
Yeah,
but I think they'll get away from this with something out of it at home, and I'd be happy enough with that. Like again, I think looking inwards, looking at everything that we've displayed this season so far, of course we can win this game.
Yeah,
of course we can win this game. We could have won on Saturday as well. We could have beaten Newcastle. So this team is capable. But I'm going to say 1-1. 1-1.
Yeah, 1-1. Good stuff.
Would you take 1-1?
What's that? Sorry.
Would you take 1-1?
Oh, I would. Yeah, no, I absolutely would. Yeah, I think away from home, a point is, whoever you're playing. And like we said at the start of the stream, look who they've played as well. It's not just simply they've been awful and lost all the games. They've had a hard start. So, definitely a point away. Myself and Jace, we will be back for our post-match reaction at the weekend at some point to discuss the game. But here we go. It's going into another weekend. If you've watched along, thank you very much for watching live. If you're watching again later, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in as well. How do you think it's going to go against Wolves? And make sure you're back here on Saturday to catch up with our reaction to the game as well. I've been Stephen Brown. Joining me as ever has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.